All right, welcome back, everybody. Today, I said I want to go over the history of work, and right now, what I want to do is go over to Amazon and look up this book. Let's see. I probably should have done this earlier, but I had other shit I was doing. So, all right, boom. There we go. All right. Like I had said, I am reading this book by Tom Skrylus. All right. The Dark History of Work. All right. And in it, uh, he's talking about, from the beginning. Well, it isn't actually the beginning. That can go back, you know, thousands of years. People have had to work for their living. A lot of people there were agrarian societies where you worked the land. The serfs, they worked the land. Of course, they worked it for their king and everything, but, you know, uh, they, were able to make a profit off of this by working with their own hands. Technically, it wasn't freedom. Freedom would be where the government doesn't say, yeah, you can have this land and you got to give us a percentage of what you make. Freedom is you have the land and you make whatever you need to make or want to make. Okay, but uh, back in I'm going to go over here to hmm, uh, back in England in 1773. The Enclosure Act was enacted, and it gave landowners the right to close off common land from the public. The areas that had once been free for ordinary people to use for farming, fishing, grazing livestock, gathering firewood, or hunting were sectioned off. Commoners were barred from land that had been, by law, theirs. Now, as an anarchist, I'm not by law, you can take your fucking law and shove it. I have the freedom to hunt, fish, do whatever the hell I want. If it's on my land or whatever, I'm not going to take advantage of it. I'm going to get what I need, and that's it. And the majority of people will. You have that percentage, that small percentage that's going to go crazy and all that shit. Well, that can be taken care of by me. If I see some jackass going back here and I know he's a piece of shit, I'm going to go back there if I have that freedom. I'm going to put a gun in his face and I'm going to tell him, fuck the hell off. Or maybe we'll bury you back here. But anyway, the landowners, okay, they fenced off these areas now. And if that commoner wants to go on that land, maybe to hunt some deer, to get some venison for his family, he's not allowed. If he wants to graze his cattle on that land, he's not allowed. Okay? So, you're going to starve. You're not going to have your livelihood. You're not going to be able to sell the meat from that cattle or maybe milk. You can't make butter. You can't do any of that. You can't sell these things and have, what you need. You can't make the money to buy what you need. Okay? So that created a system to where now the landowners will create, okay, we have jobs. And you, the commoner, need to come over here and you need to work for us so you can make your money. That's a system we're in now. All right. Now, The process was presented as rational, scientific, and beneficial, improving landlords argue that private ownership would lead to better agricultural techniques, higher yields, and greater prosperity for all. They always do that. We're here to help you. no, no, you're not. You're there to help yourself, you prick. All right. They spoke the language of progress and efficiency. They always do that. This is progressive. It's efficient. I've heard that many times, and it wasn't. It was more bullshit that I had to deal with. Okay? Pointing to fields that lay fallow and forests that seem underutilized. Okay? What they didn't mention was that these seemingly empty lands were actually vital components of a complex economic ecosystem. The fallow fields were resting according to agricultural cycles perfected over generations. Yes, it's good to leave a field fallow. Okay, I'm not a farmer. I don't know much about that. But what I do know is the farmers say you need to leave that field fallow while you plant this field. Okay, or that field. And then you come back to these fields eventually while you leave those fields fallow. Okay? Because it won't take all the nutrients and out of that soil. It won't turn it into complete shit. Okay? You need to do that. So it is better for planting and it brings forth a better yield. But there you go. The government and these fucking landowners, these scum fucks. Okay? No, it isn't about any progress or efficiency. It's about that. All right? The fallow fields, okay. The forest provided fuel, building materials, and food for both humans and animals. The seemingly unused spaces were integral to the survival of entire communities. I can go out here on my land. If I say I have wood fire, I can go out here on my land and I can cut trees down. I have dead trees that I cut down. Okay, I use wood to start my fire. But if I would live in an area where I didn't have that, I would have to go buy it from somebody who does. Okay? Now, most times that's somebody who owns their own property. But if I just decided to go into land that, say, was owned by government and cut it down because I butt up against the game land and I need fuel and I get caught, I'm going to have to pay a fine, maybe go to jail. But I'm not going in there to destroy the forest. I need what I need. And if I need to cut a few trees down to get the fucking wood, then that there is my right. But the government or a landowner now can call me a criminal. Well, if there's no victim, there's no crime. And if that landowner don't need that wood, like before the Enclosure Act, where he apparently didn't need that wood, and that was the problem. These fucking slimy, petty little low-down worms are sitting there like all fucking angry because these common people are coming in my woods and cutting down trees. Oh my God, their cattle is eating my grass. Well, you're not using it, you fucking jackass. God, if you run to somebody for help, in order to fuck somebody else over, you need it back in your fucking face tenfold. Okay? The transformation happened gradually, which is what they do. See, they're the frog in the pot. They're not going to put the frog in the pot and turn it all the way up to high, or extra high, or extreme high. They're going to turn it to simmer. It's not going to be boiling within a few minutes. And over time, you just turn it up slowly until the frog suddenly realizes at the end that he's fucked. That's what they did with us. Oh, the American dream. Oh my God, you can have a home, you can have a picket fence, you can have 2.5 fucking kids. Boom, American dream. Yeah. And people will look back and go, that was a great time. No, it wasn't, you dumbass. What it was a conditioning. They conditioned you to think that you got something. Didn't have permits. This home was built by my grandpa. My parents' home was built by the uncle and my grandpa. They didn't have to get a permit to build. They could go and get the supplies and work their ass off to build that home without getting a permit. Now, I don't know when this started. Back in the 60s and the 70s, you had to get permits. Why? Well, because there were people that couldn't do that or didn't have the wherewithal to do that, and they got all jealous and all angry, and they went to the government. And the government's like, oh, well, now we got to have a permit. You got to come to us, pay us for permission to do that. And we can tell you, no, you can't. Okay? One year, a villager might notice new fences around a familiar meadow. The next year, the lord of the manor would announce that certain traditional rights were no longer recognized. Slowly but relentlessly, the legal landscape shifted beneath people's feet. And that's how they do it, gradually. You don't realize it's happening. Okay? Before the enclosures, a person could plant trees where they saw fit, forage for food in the woods, and let their animals graze freely on common land. After the enclosures, the same activities would result in fines, imprisonment, or worse. I tell you, man, I cannot express on here how much I hate the government and what I would do to these people. I would have no problem. To somebody who had respect, I couldn't do it to them. I wouldn't have the same feeling. I have a very cold, brutal, vicious fucking way about me. And these people, my God, they would have no. I mean, I keep them alive long enough for them to love me for doing what I'm doing to them. Okay? What had been rights became crimes. What had been freedom became theft. Anybody that excuses this shit, and there are people out there that will excuse taxation. Oh, well, we need a road and we need the services and all that. That person, if you're friends with them, get the fuck away from them. They're scum. Okay? The genius of the system was its apparent legality. Yeah, legality, legal. Legal. It's a legal thing. Oh, you better watch it, pal. There's laws about that. Okay, shove 'em up your ass. No one could claim their land had been stolen in the traditional sense. After all, there were documents, legal proceedings, and proper procedures. The dispossession had the veneer of civilization, the appearance of justice. It was theft conducted in broad daylight, sanctioned by the highest authorities in the land. Okay? And I'm going to stop there. It's I can do things. If I want to, if I need venison, I don't eat venison. I eat beef. But if I got to that point, I would kill a deer and I would have it butchered by somebody that I can trust that isn't going to talk, and I would keep that venison. But if I'm caught and if he's caught, guess what? The policy is that you can't do that. Not the law. There's no victim. The only victim would be the deer. Okay, if you want to say if you're an animal activist, but there's no reason other than money. And they love controlling you through fear. Look what we did to that guy. Look what we did to them people. Yeah, I saw you killed the wife and the dog and the boy at Ruby Ridge. Okay? Waco. You killed all them people. You burned them alive. I'm not afraid of you. I hate you. I'm not afraid of you, though. But anyway, that's the beginning of this series. I don't know if I'm going to have a part one. I think maybe I will. Just the history of, I'll just call it the history of wage slavery, part one. The Enclosure Act of 1773. Now, they were doing this in a small way before that. I think, if I'm correct, let's look back here. Okay. Between 1604 and 1914, Parliament passed over 5,000 5,000 of these laws, each one carving away another piece of the commons. Nearly 7 million acres. 7 million acres of land where nothing. The deer were not, weeded out. There were still deer. There were still animals. There were still trees were being planted. But from that time, 1604 to 14, 310 years of complete government bullshit? So, yeah, uh, the Enclosure Act. Man, I tell you what, people, you gotta. I saw a clip on X, and I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the link to the book, Tom Skrilas's book, in the link, and I'm also going to put a link to a video on X, which I agree with 100%. It's this here, going to vote. That's no way. That was maybe decades ago. It's come to the point of blood. That's it. It's blood. I mean, that there really sucks. That it got to that point that people in the past did not get their fucking head out of their ass, did not wake up and go, I'm tired of this. Oh, sure, they went to their little town meetings and their township meetings and blah, blah, blah. And then they get wound up. My dad got all wound up at one township meeting, and at the end, the cop said, I don't know, I almost had to take you out. Yeah, what a fucking cuck. Okay? He almost had to take my dad out. Who's he protecting? The people or the policymaker? All right? So that's it. I got to go check on my food that I'm making for the next couple weeks. So I got to stop right here, or it's going to burn fast to the kettle. I have a Dutch oven. Yeah, I'm using cast iron. That'll piss off some people. Well, what you ought to do is you ought to use Teflon. Yeah, because it shaves the fuck off and it gets in your food, and then you can eat Teflon. You jackass. Uh, but anyway, that's it. Part one, the Enclosure Act.